Christmas Eve, 2002. The city of Modesto, California, wrapped itself in festive silence. Homes were dressed in lights, wreaths adorned front doors, and the air carried that quiet excitement that only the night before Christmas can bring. But at one home on Covina Avenue, the cheer was replaced with panic. Something was terribly wrong. 27-year-old Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant and glowing with anticipation for her soon-to-be-born baby boy, was missing. The last time anyone saw Laci was that morning. Her husband, Scott Peterson, claimed she went out to walk their golden retriever, Mackenzie. But as the hours passed and Laci didn't return, worry turned into alarm. That same night, Scott called the police to report her missing. Officers arrived, and so did the first chilling realization. Laci didn't just vanish, she was truly gone, without a trace. In those first hours and days, Scott played the role of the grieving husband. He spoke calmly on camera, passed out flyers, answered every question. To outsiders, he was a man devastated by his wife's disappearance. But to those who knew Laci, something felt off. The tears didn't come. The urgency seemed rehearsed. Behind his eyes, something was missing. The media swarmed in. The community rallied. Volunteers combed fields, canals, and parks. Tips poured in from across the state. But nothing concrete surfaced. Not a shoe. Not a piece of clothing. Not a clue. Modesto was holding its breath, hoping for a miracle. Then came a twist no one expected. A woman named Amber Frey stepped forward. Her voice was shaking. Her face pale. She had something to confess, not to the police, but to the world. She was Scott Peterson's girlfriend, not just someone he dated in the past. He was with her while Laci was missing. And worse, Scott had told her something horrifying, that his wife was gone, long before her actual disappearance. That Christmas would be his first without her. The narrative shattered. The grieving husband became the prime suspect. Public sympathy turned to public fury. How could a man look into the camera and beg for his wife's return while lying to another woman behind the scenes? Amber's phone calls with Scott had been recorded. The world heard his voice, calm and cold, planning romantic dates while his wife's photo hung on missing persons posters. Investigators now focused their attention on Scott. His story didn't add up. He claimed to have gone fishing at the Berkeley Marina the morning Laci disappeared. But no one could verify it. And why, out of all days, would a man go fishing alone on Christmas Eve when his pregnant wife was at home? Weeks turned into months. The hope of finding Laci alive began to fade. Then, in April 2003, the San Francisco Bay gave up its dead. First, a tiny decomposed body, an unborn child, washed ashore. Then, just a mile away, a partial female torso. No head, no limbs. The remains were so damaged, it took DNA testing to confirm the grim truth. It was Laci. And it was Connor, the baby she never got to hold. The nation gasped. Strangers wept. The search was over, but the nightmare had only just begun. Scott was arrested shortly after, found near a golf course in San Diego. His hair was dyed blonde. His car packed with camping gear, 4 cell phones, and over $10,000 in cash. It looked like a man preparing to flee, not one mourning the love of his life. But even with this mountain of suspicion, Scott denied everything. No confession, no emotion. Just a steady, unnerving calm. And so began one of the most watched murder cases in modern American history. The perfect suburban couple. The perfect facade. Shattered. This chapter in the Peterson case left a scar that never truly healed. A young mother and her unborn child, taken in cold blood. A husband whose lies unraveled in real time. And a nation that learned even the most picture-perfect lives can hide the darkest truths. Viewers around the world were left asking the same question. How do you vanish into thin air from your own home on Christmas Eve, while the person who loves you most says nothing that adds up? This is only the beginning of what would become one of the most chilling trials in American history. The courtroom was silent. yet charged with a tension that crackled like static in the air. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder outside, cameras rolling, their voices barely above a whisper. Inside, Scott Peterson sat at the defendant's table, expressionless, eerily calm, while the rest of the world leaned in to watch what would become one of the most captivating trials in American criminal history. Laci Peterson, once the bright, smiling face of a joyful young mother-to-be, had become the center of a case that blurred the lines between love, lies, and the horrifying reality that evil doesn't always wear a monster's face. It can look like the man next door, your neighbor, your husband. Prosecutors began their argument with a simple but powerful theme: motive. Scott wanted freedom, not just from responsibility, but from fatherhood, marriage, and the perfect life he had created with Laci. He didn't want a family. He wanted escape. And Amber Frey, the mistress he kept secret, was the key to proving that. The jury listened to hours of recorded phone calls. Scott, while his wife was missing and his unborn child possibly already dead, was making sweet, romantic calls to Amber. He told her he had lost his wife, that this would be his first Christmas without her, all while Laci's body lay somewhere in the bay. Those calls weren't just evidence, they were daggers. Every word twisted deeper into the hearts of the jury and the millions watching at home. The defense tried to shift the spotlight. No eyewitnesses saw Scott commit the murder. No blood, no fingerprints, no definitive cause of death. They argued. The case was built on emotion and assumption, and maybe, in another world, that would have been enough. But not here. Not now. Not after the baby's body washed up on shore. Not after Scott dyed his hair, packed his car with cash and camping gear, and headed south toward the Mexican border. To the public, it was no longer a question of guilt. It was a matter of justice. The court wasn't just prosecuting a man. It was grieving a woman and an unborn child. Every witness added a piece to the puzzle. Laci's mother, holding back tears, described her daughter's final days. Neighbors testified about the timeline. Experts analyzed tidal charts, cell tower pings, and the state of decomposition. Slowly, methodically, the truth rose to the surface. The moment of the verdict came like thunder. The jury had reached a decision. Guilty. First-degree murder for the death of Laci Peterson. Guilty. Second-degree murder for the death of unborn Connor Peterson. Scott didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He didn't protest. He just stared, vacant, detached, as the world around him collapsed. In December 2004, 2 years after Laci disappeared, Scott Peterson was sentenced to death. But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just the beginning of a new chapter, one full of appeals, debates, and controversy. To this day, Scott's defense team claims the trial was unfair, that the jury was swayed by media pressure, by emotion, by the tidal wave of public opinion. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned his death sentence, citing juror misconduct, but upheld the conviction. Legal battles continue. Some believe he's innocent. Others call that belief a delusion. But whether you think he's guilty or not, one truth stands unshaken. 2 lives were lost. A mother, full of love. A child, full of potential. And a nation forced to look into the face of suburban life and ask, how well do we really know the people we love? This trial wasn't just about crime. It was about betrayal, about masks we wear, about how darkness doesn't always come in the night. Sometimes it walks beside us in daylight. As the years have passed, the house on Covenant Avenue has changed. Owners. The media attention faded, but for those who lived through it, for Laci's family, for the jurors, for the millions who watched and cried and raged, this story never truly ends. It lingers, like a haunting question that refuses to fade. Was justice truly served, or was this a trial where grief spoke louder than facts? This was the silence of Suburbia, the illusion of peace shattered by a truth too painful to ignore. And if this story left you shocked, saddened, or speechless, imagine what's still hidden behind the next front door. If you found this story, As haunting and unforgettable as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. There are more real-life mysteries, twisted truths, and untold chapters to uncover, and we're just getting started. Turn on notifications so you never miss what lies beneath the surface, because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened.